City Commission conference meeting, November 2nd, 2021. Before I begin, I just have a couple of things to read. This meeting will be held both in person and virtually. For additional information on how to view or sign up to speak at such a meeting, please go to www.fortlauderdale.gov/City Commission meetings. Thank you. I'll repeat that, www.fortlauderdale.gov/City Commission meetings, plural. To help ensure decorum, we ask that you please abide by the following guidelines. Please refrain from any behavior that is disruptive, distractive, profane, or inhibits the meeting in any way. While you are on the phone waiting for your opportunity to speak, please mute the meeting broadcast whichever way you're listening, and to avoid delays with the broadcast. I will call upon you when it is your turn to speak and also notify you when your time has expired. City staff has automatically added speakers in the to listen only mode, and you will be unmuted when recognized. Finally, once you have completed speaking, you will be muted and may either hang up to exit the meeting or stay connected to listen to the remainder of the meeting. Okay, so set of a few items. I think what we need to do is let's jump over to communications. Did you all have a great Halloween weekend?
Yes. What'd you dress up as, Mayor? Let's hear about your costume. Thank you.
I dressed up as a civilian.
Oh, civilian. Wonderful. What a change.
Yeah, no one recognized me.
No one recognized you.
But Wilton Drive was quite an extravaganza.
Yeah, I hear this is quite the event.
There's been 30,000 people there.
Wow, all to see you, huh?
Yes, they were there to see me. Exactly. It was a fundraiser, actually.
That's a fundraiser.
It was quite. I saw a lot of folks there from all over our city, and it was really kind of nice. Okay, so let's start with the first one, the Historic Preservation Board. There were two motions that were made, and which we were asked to consider. The first one is in light of the City Commission's inquiry of this board concerning historic designation and the issues that we have come across today in terms that were addressed at the meeting. That was in particular the New River Castle. We again encourage them to dedicate more resources and more staff to historic preservation. We see repeatedly in our work that Tricia Logan is spread so thin. And Tricia is spread thin. And we could accomplish more. The citizens of the city of Fort Lauderdale could accomplish more expeditiously. And we would be able to protect both property owners' rights and the historic preservation of the city better if there were more resources dedicated. And in a voice vote, that motion passed 7-0. You have any comments on that, Chris?
Yeah, I can tell you I've worked with Anthony on that, and he's got some ideas as to how he can increase the staffing in that area. So that truly is a comment that's directed at the operations and duly noted.
Okay, and so to put this into context, I think people should also understand that, when I was a commissioner, we begged to have a position filled like Trish Logan, and we were first given a part-time person who had multiple duties, not just historic preservation. So now we have a full-time person with a wonderful background and experience, and so yeah, I think that we're on the right path. We can certainly do more. So, Chris, maybe you can come back to us. Anyone have any questions regarding this? Ben, Heather, Steve, do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, Mayor, if I could, I would just like to say one word about that. Thank you. I agree with their motion. I watched that meeting that evening, actually, and I've been watching regularly. And I agree. I do think that there's just so much work to be done. Later this evening, during public hearings, we're going to talk about ordinances amending the City of Fort Lauderdale's comprehensive plan, future land use element. There's a lot of language in there about historic preservation and about figuring out what that plan is for the entire city. And how we do preserve and decide what we are going to preserve. And we are really going to follow that in particular, and I'll bring it up again this evening. We really should. So I just wanted to say I concur 100%, and I know that the HPB voted that unanimously. So I just wanted to say that I've certainly witnessed it. And yes, Mayor, I remember when we were trying so hard to get someone like Trish on board. But, once and for all, we're going to have to decide what it is we want to do. We sort of skirt around it a lot. But there's just a lot to really figure out what direction we want to go. So I agree with that communication 100%.
Okay, so maybe Chris, you can get back to some recommendation as to what's feasible going forward.
I can. Yep.
There's a lot on their plate. The second thing that they was the Historic Preservation Board requested the City Commission ask the city manager to have staff prepare a code amendment to include thematic historic districts in the Historic Preservation Ordinance that would enable the designation of non-contiguous historic districts. So I didn't quite understand that until it was explained to me, and I don't. Do you all understand what's being asked here, everyone on the commission? Because
Yes, I'm sorry.
you want to explain it, Commissioner?
I think what they're saying is there are many ways you can go about doing a district. You might even want to look at some of our city's well-known architects like McKirahan and Abreu, and you could actually do districts based on those folks' work. So there's a lot of ways to do it, and obviously we think of districts as this says contiguous, but they're looking at non-contiguous. And I think that maybe Tricia could add, but I think that they're thinking in terms of maybe architects specifically their works and how we would go about designating those folks' works before they're all gone.
So you're saying that a district isn't necessarily defined by a contiguous geographical area like we have in Sailboat Bend. It could be a collection of sites that are connected because of a certain common denominator they have as with some sort of special historic significance. Is that what you're saying?
Right. I think it could be the type of architecture, whether it's mid-century, modern, tropical mid-century modern, which we're very well known for, or even maybe some of the Mediterranean like Abreu. But yeah, so I think because right now, and maybe I'm not 100% sure, but right now I think our districts have to be contiguous. So I think they're looking to see if we can do an ordinance change, a code amendment that would basically allow us to enable designation of districts that are not contiguous. I think that's the main gist of their motion.
Okay. Does anyone have a little better feel for that now, Ben, Heather? Okay.
Yep, I'm good.
So where do we take it from here, though? Is this something that the Historic Preservation Board will come to the City Commission and recommend? Is that the next step? It says have city manager have staff prepare code amendment, but we don't quite know which.
Let me turn to
How does that work?
people that were at this meeting and can understand the context. Who do I have? Trish. New prescription for my glasses, apparently.
Hi, good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Tricia Logan, Historic Preservation Planner in the Department of Sustainable Development. This was discussed as part of several different designation possibilities that could come through. And one of our board members, Arthur Marcus, he's the vice chair, he's also here if there's any questions. But typically, if a board suggests a code amendment, staff would be needed to be directed to prepare that code amendment to take back to the Historic Preservation Board for their consideration. And then it would also need to go to the Planning and Zoning Board and then ultimately to the City Commission.
Well, what would the amendment say?
It would actually be a rather simple amendment in this scenario because what we would need to do is define what a thematic district is. And then we would also need to add language as another option for that as a designation opportunity within our code. So it's just adding thematic district, or in this case, we'd probably call it something similar to what they use in the National Register Bulletin, which is a multiple property submission, just to be in line with our federal code.
Is that? I mean, how are those things going to be defined? Just through standard language we find in other cities or other municipalities?
Correct. Yeah, we would look at some other municipalities that do this type of designation and what their definition is. We'd also look at the federal code and look at how they're defining multiple property submission and make sure that we're in line with that. And then just adding in language where appropriate to allow for this type of designation to proceed.
Okay. Arthur Marcus, he signed up to speak. Arthur, are you here?
Yes.
What are your
Whoops,
thoughts?
sorry, walked into the microphone. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Arthur Marcus, and I'm here speaking as a member of the City of Fort Lauderdale Historic Preservation Board. Thematic historic districts include properties and/or structures that are related to each other through a common theme, but which are not necessarily all located within a contiguous area. By contrast, traditional local historic districts have been based on geographical boundaries, with all properties or structures on a particular block or in a recognized neighborhood. The purpose of a thematic district is to preserve a designated area of the town or buildings which embody the locally significant elements of the town's historical, cultural, and architectural assets, and possess an integrity of design and character of our cities, similar to what Commissioner Glassman talked about in terms of it could be based on our famous architects, our famous local architects like Abreu or McCurahan. We in Fort Lauderdale have a world-class collection of mid-century architecture, which today is not protected and is under a real threat of demolition and or desecration and an urgent need of further protections. Just last evening at the Historic Preservation Board, we learned that the owners of the mid-century Bayview building, this noted landmark by the celebrated architect Charles McCurahan, will be removing the entire historic brick facades in order to repair underlying structural issues. And they have no current plans to reinstate the historic integrity of the building. This will essentially demolish the historic building. Thematic historic districts have already been established in Davie, Florida, Philadelphia, San Diego, Honolulu, Joliet, Illinois, and Elgin, Illinois, among many others. Properties within a local thematic district should be subject to design standards and preservation standards in order to protect the historic character of the area. In addition, any exterior property improvements, alterations, or demolitions, as is typical now, should require review by the HPB. I hope that you, the Commission, will take this opportunity to pursue more information and approve the addition of thematic historic districts in Fort Lauderdale. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak on this? So what's the sense of the commission? Does this sound like something we might be interested in and allow staff to come back to us with some framework of a ordinance? What do you got? What do you think?
I think it makes sense to have it come back to us with an ordinance.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm happy to
Okay.
keep exploring it. I think it
Okay,
makes sense.
so I think there's a consensus on the commission to move forward on something like this. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the Budget Advisory Board. There was a motion sent to us, passed 5-0, on a bunch of things. I see Brian Donaldson is here, but you haven't signed up to speak, so I think you're here just for questions. Number one, to have feedback from the Commission regarding the 2023 nonprofit award process, to refine the 2022 nonprofit vetting process to narrow the criteria to eliminate the number of applications. 3, to continue public vetting of the nonprofits. 4, to have the Commission identify organizations they feel do not need to be vetted or that they want to continue to award or give contracts to. 5, for the city to streamline the criteria. And 6, to have a discussion with the City Commission in November, I assume, regarding this. So I guess that the process was a little convoluted this year and misunderstood. So I don't think there's anyone who doesn't agree that we should probably have more defined parameters when we go forward, assuming we're going to give any money to nonprofits next year based on what kind of income we have to try to avoid a tax increase. So so where do we go from here?
Mayor?
Yes.
Just a few comments, and I want to, always thank the Budget Advisory Board and the work. Brian leads a great group of people, and I just think their work is so valuable, and that's why I'm having a hard time understanding why we would want this valuable group to work on something that's maybe 2 million, 2.5 million, 3 million tops out of almost $1 billion all-in budget, and spend as much time as they did on this. I just personally believe that next year is going to be really challenging. We've already heard talk of perhaps, a millage rate increase. I would much rather see this board concentrate on all of the other challenges that are going to be facing us as a city next year. And being that this was so time consuming, I just think it should go back to maybe the community services board or whatever, but I just can't justify the hours that they spent on $2 million out of our total budget when, as I said, there is so much more to do. So that's just my personal opinion.
Well, I don't think they're complaining. I think that they just.
No, I'm not saying they're complaining. I'm just, yeah. Well, if you read the minutes, there's some complaining. Yeah.
I did receive complaints as well.
Yes. Yeah. Read the minutes. There's definitely some complaints.
Yes, from the amount of
time?
Yes,
Okay.
from different members that were appointed, and I do agree that it's a good conversation to have. I just don't know who should be spearheading this conversation, or what advisory group should be spearheading it, or is it the commission? Do we spend more time at it? Maybe we spend more time at our annual goal setting, workshop that we have in January, and discuss, the nonprofits that are really valuable to have funding. I don't know. It does need to be discussed, but maybe by whom is the question.
All right.
The goal with moving it to the Budget Advisory Board was to have an independent body vetting the request, so that it wasn't, Chris stuck it in, or the commission stuck it in, or somehow it ended up in the budget, what made it in and what didn't make it in. So it was, with all the best of intentions, that was what it was given to the Budget Advisory Board for. I will agree with Commissioner Glassman that it took an extraordinary amount of their time. It's really, I guess, up to us as to whether it wants to be something that's driven by the commission, whether you want me to make a recommendation and then you all either support or don't support it, or if you want to continue with some type of an independent board vetting of it. We can really do any of those options.
Well, again,
I agree with Steve. This is Commissioner McKenzie.
Commissioner McKenzie's on. Okay, I didn't know you would.
Yeah, I agree with Steve.
Okay. Well, again, I think that some of this discussion is going to be impacted by even the availability of funds. So maybe we're not there yet. Maybe we're not really there to. I think that what Steve is saying also is that shifting it to the Community Services Board, which you don't think has the same intensity of work that the Budget Advisory Board does at that point in time. Maybe that's something that they need to discuss amongst themselves to see whether or not this is a task that they can take on. So, okay, so we hear the message, so thank you. You want to come up and speak? Okay.
So Mayor, when do we get the numbers? You can come up, Brian, while you're coming up, Brian. When do we get the numbers from Marty Care? Is it June? June. So maybe, maybe in January at our annual goal setting workshop, we can discuss if there are there are 5 different bullets you have here. So maybe one of the items is, are there a few nonprofits that really we're all committed to? And maybe as a commission, we decide that, but maybe in June, when we know what the numbers look like, maybe we set a special workshop with the Budget Advisory Board and kind of go through. I don't know. I don't think it should take a lot of time.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
But go ahead, Brian.
I agree with you.
Hi, Brian Donaldson. I'm current chair of the Budget Advisory Board. Why we wanted to get in front of you this month is the fact that in the past, and last year, the city published to the citizens of Fort Lauderdale in December the application process, which then needed to be completed by the end of December. So really we needed feedback as to whether or not staff this year was going to be putting something like that out to the public again. We are fine with, yes, we realize that there was way too much time spent on this last year, and we had some ideas and a lot of discussion as to how we could continue to look at a very challenging year and streamline this. So the one thing was, we didn't think that having now the experience and the knowledge that we have to kick it to another board they would then have the same learning curve that we have already experienced. So we think that we can be much more efficient this year. The real question was that we needed, I think that we as a city should recognize which organizations contribute to the overall benefit of the city and identify those. Those are a lot of the groups that have been traditional and broad ranging across districts, and acknowledge those. And there's no reason to go through and re-vet those, have them do the application. That was a lot of the time and energy that we put. Also, we were looking at some organizations because it was the first time it was publicized and over 100 applications came in, but some of them were to help 8 individuals or 12 individuals. So what we were looking at is how do we look and communicate if the city is going to open up an application process in December, that give them a more narrowed criteria. It needs to be to betterment of over X amount of people throughout the city in order to get taxpayer dollars. But I think to follow up on your point, I think we should identify, I think personally, we should not be asking the organizations in December. I think it's premature because of the fact that we all know that this is going to be a very challenging budget year. So I think that my gut tells me that it can't be a $2.5 million award process next year and have a flat ad valorem rate. So if we put the cart before the horse, I think we need to identify those organizations we feel comfortable, you as a commission, and then narrow the criteria if we are going to open up applications to be reviewed. And
Okay.
in that process.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this? Okay, there being none. The last communication is through the Education Advisory Board. We have 2 people who signed up to speak. The communication basically is directing the commission to see what it can do to push forward the cafeteria at Stranahan High School. Whose district is that? Is that in your district?
Yes, Mayor. Yep.
It's yours.
Working.
Okay.
Yep.
I know you've been working on this aggressively, but we have 2 people who signed up to speak, Mary Fertig and Dr. Zeman. Mary, are you here? Yeah. You want to come up and speak? Or Dr. Zeman, who wants to come first? Okay. Ladies before gentlemen.
Mayor, they and Zoe have been doing yeoman's work on this, so thank you in advance, Mary.
Well, thank you all. You've been so supportive of this, and I have been working on schools for years. I have to tell you, this is a wonderful commission for supporting public education in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Zoe is extraordinary. Dr. Seaman leads a wonderful education advisory board. On September 8th, the school board did something that just I couldn't believe. All 9 agreed that we needed a new cafeteria at Stranahan. And then in the subsequent district education facilities plan budget meeting, they agreed to put an amount of money in the budget. The conversation, however, revolved around a proposal that was before them for a larger cafeteria and for more money. And they were very clear that they wanted to see something a little smaller and more in keeping with some of the other things in the district. They went to some. They ultimately. We saw plans for a prototype that was used down in Miami at Palmetto Senior High School. I went down with a group of people. Zoe was one of those people, a lot of people from Stranahan High School, some other community people. I think Commissioner Sorensen, someone from your office came, Ryan came. It was just beautiful. The advantage of a prototype is obviously that you can get it done more quickly and hopefully at a better price. So I just wanted to encourage you to support the Education Advisory Board's request that you all as a commission ask the school board to move ahead with this and let them know how appreciative we are. This is going to make a huge difference for Stranahan High School. So again, thank you for supporting public education and thank you for the stand you took. Commissioner Sorensen spoke, and I hope you'll continue that. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Zeman.
Thank you, Mayor. Alan Zeman, Chair of the EAB. Commissioners, at our most recent EAB, we had school board member attend. We had a commissioner in the district where this project's going to be done. We had homeowners association presidents we had the principal of Stranahan High School. And so we used the EAB as a way to get everybody together and talk about this. And we had a long and robust discussion about the options of a brand new construction versus reuse. And the Education Advisory Board decided that reuse, largely because it saves money, which means we have more money left in the budget to do other school construction funding. And then also of great importance to us is the cafeteria meets all of the requirements of the principal for Stranahan High School, and it'll get done roughly a year earlier. So we're looking at a ribbon cutting in fall of 2023 instead of a ribbon cutting in fall of 2024. And for the students and the athletes and the people that use that cafeteria, that's a significant difference. And so we sent this communication to you because you have huge influence with the school board. You have huge influence with Ms. Cartwright, the new superintendent, who has asked us to think as a city and to prioritize the additional funds. This might save between $2 and $5 million and gets us the cafeteria a year earlier. This is good government on behalf of the EAB, at least in terms of.
So I'm still not understanding, if it's already on track to be done in a year earlier, what's the city's involvement then?
So what the school board is considering, sir, is whether or not you do new construction, which is going to take an extra year and cost $2 to $5 million roughly more,
Right.
or to get it done faster and cost $2 to $5 million less. And they were asking the city, how would you balance all of these things out? And when we learned from Principal Perdura that this is going to meet all the requirements of the school, and the looks of a reuse and the looks of a new design aren't going to be much different, we listened to the homeowners association, we listened to the principal, we listened to the school board member, we listened to the commissioner whose district it's in, and we used our own experience and decided that reuse is really kind of on balance a better option.
And
But- I just finished.
Yeah.
But I attended a meeting once, and it was pointed out to me that the rehabilitation approach was sort of, a slap together kind of, get what you can with the money we're giving you, and it's not going to be really what you were promised, but, and it was short. It was short of what we feel is appropriate for the amount of money being spent and the length of time it's taken to get here. So, what is this a second? Like we're taking sloppy seconds here? What?
Mayor, let me just clarify terms for a moment, and because I think that kind of can trip me up too. So, Alan, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but when we talk about reuse for the cafeteria at Stranahan High School, we're talking about reusing. A better term, Mary, emphasize with me, is prototype. In other words, we're reusing an existing design for a new cafeteria, if that makes sense. So it's reusing an existing design, a prototype that's already been developed and can kind of be more cost effectively applied to Stranahan High School. A new design would be more expensive as you look at kind of a new concept, new design for the cafeteria. Both would still be new buildings. Alan, am I describing that right?
Absolutely. And Mayor, to your point, in commercial and residential development, you'd be absolutely right. A reuse often can look like a cookie cutter. In a school context, that's just not the case. A high school cafeteria, whether you go to any of the ones we have in Broward County or South Florida or the state, they're not wildly different. They're built for functionality. In this case, we have a couple very good models that we can start with their plans. The other big advantage is if you do that, the general contractors that bid on it bid knowing that this design has been built. And so they have much greater certainty that they can order what they need or have the people there and just get it done quicker, and therefore the bids come in significantly lower, and that's part of the cost savings as well.
Okay, all right.
And
Sorry.
there's been good support, not everyone obviously, Mayor, but good coalescing, and again, Zoe and Alan and Mary have been helping lead this effort, but good alignment and support among the community as well.
If you look at Fort Lauderdale High School, Mayor, 3 of the primary buildings there were reuse. But if you go to Fort Lauderdale High School, that is one beautiful high school, and it all comes together. The old buildings they didn't knock down with the new ones that they did put up. It is one hell of a facility. But most people don't know this, but 3 of their primary buildings did not start from original design. They were actually reuse architectural designs.
I guess I'm just used to the high school I went to, which was 19th century ivy-covered brick walls.
God, if we could build one of those down here, Mayor, the EAB would vote 20-0 for that.
Zoe, do you want to add to this at all? Is there anything you think, anything that's been left out?
Zoe Saunders, Chief Education Officer and Liaison to the Education Advisory Board. I think the clarity that you just discussed was important. Stranahan High School will get a brand new cafeteria, new construction building. What the considerations on the table are is what design makes the most sense. And time has come up as a very critical factor. We've heard from the community and the school a sense of urgency to be able to get this in place as soon as possible. And it's been about 3 years of different designs coming forward, and nothing has yet transpired. So what was appealing in this option is the school felt like this particular design met their criteria, and it fits in the space, and it could be done quicker.
Okay, so to be clear, what's the time frame now?
So the time frame for the prototype would be a year sooner. So that's the fall of 2023.
2023?
Correct.
Okay, so 2 years from now.
Yes.
Okay.
And the school district's continuing to, do their due diligence to really review both of the options before they make that final recommendation. But the recommendation is expected to go before the school board on November 9th. So we just wanted to understand from the commission your position so that we could advocate for what's in the best interest of the school.
Okay. Ben, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, just give just a little bit more context in terms of seating capacity. Mayor, has been one of the things that we've all been focused on. How many students can we actually seat in the entirety of the cafeteria, but then also specifically indoors given inclement weather? So, and again, Zoe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the indoor seating capacity is around 540 students, I think, and the total is around 800. Is that my?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, Mary?
540 interior.
And what's the population? And what's the population of the school?
So it's around 13. Is it 1,300? Is that right, Alan?
About 15.
2 shifts for lunch.
2 shifts, just 2 shifts? Okay.
Right.
All right, very good.
So, and again, I just wanted, the indoor capacity was what, Mary?
It does depend on the different seating configurations.
Yeah,
so
so-
there were a couple of different options that were put forward depending on how they want to organize the seating.
The seating, okay.
Round tables and so forth. So there is some flexibility with that.
Okay,
In terms of the maximum.
okay.
I should have said all of this. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay. Currently, they have 300 seats. The cafeteria at Stranahan, as you may know, is the oldest standing high school. I know it doesn't seem like that would be much here, but it's in Florida terms.
Yep.
And the cafeteria was built for an elementary school. It has 300 seats. This would give them 584 indoors and roughly, say, 200 outdoors with a 781 capacity. Specifically, I just want to say this is a prototype. They are getting a brand new cafeteria. No one's ever going to say this is a prototype that was used somewhere else. And Dr. Siemens absolutely correct. When they gave us our first prototype classroom building at Fort Lauderdale High, we were thrilled because it was new and beautiful. So I would just encourage you to support this and ask the school board to move as quickly as they can. The one thing that we all know is nothing ever comes in on time just exactly as you think it's going to, but we have actually physically been able to see this cafeteria, which is one of the advantages. If they were to design something from scratch, you wouldn't have had the opportunity to see it and work out the kinks on the next one, but on this one you will. So yes, you will have the seating of total indoor, outdoor will be about 781, which was what originally I think they were looking for a goal of 800. And it will have 8 serving lines, 3 for the outdoor group and 5 for the indoor. It's beautiful. So anyways, thank you.
All right, very good. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I did have a couple questions. I support everything you're doing, so thank you. But Northeast High School and Rickards Middle School, are you all taking that up as the Education Advisory Board too? Because although they are not in the city of Fort Lauderdale, my neighborhood and other neighborhoods are zoned for those, and I haven't received any updates from anyone in a while on those 2 projects. I just want to see, can you guys work on it too? Because you seem to do great things, and I'd like you to continue.
Vice Mayor, we'll take that up at our next meeting, both Northeast and Rickards, per your recommendations. We'll be back with you with some new information. Thank you.
Okay, super. Thanks.
Great. Thank you,
And
everybody.
I just wanted to say,
Yes.
Rickards is going before the school board in a workshop tomorrow for a prototype, and it's going to be a beautiful new school, with a prototype recommendation to get it up as quickly as possible because the students are in portables. And the Northeast, to my knowledge, they do not have a guaranteed maximum price yet, but hopefully that will come soon. Hopefully they'll decide to use a prototype.
Okay, and hopefully, I don't know what kind of outreach they did with Ben and his district, but hopefully they'll do some outreach also with my district, and or maybe they are, and I just am not aware of it. But so hopefully they keep us updated too.
All right, great, thank you. Let's move on to,
And Mayor, I just want to make, Chris, do they have what they need in terms of
I think so.
direction? You good, Al? Or do you want us to do anything more formal, Zoe, or? And, yeah. Okay. So
I think I gather the intent of the commission is to support.
the prototype.
Correct.
I think we got
The recommendation in the
unanimous.
communication, and we'll ask Zoe to transmit that to the school.
Okay, great. Does that
School board.
sound good? So, okay. And then, Mayor, I also just want to acknowledge school board member Sarah Leonardi has just been a fantastic advocate. She's not here right now. But she's just been awesome supporting us, supporting Stranahan. Go Dragons. Thanks.
okay,
So-
very good. The next item on the agenda, Conference 1, Computer Software and Programs Inventory Review. Mr. City Manager.
Actually, I think this is the auditor.
Mayor and Commission, thank you very much. So I am going to introduce to you all a new hire in my office. That would be Megan Gillard, and she's going to be presenting on this today. And I don't know if any of you, I know Commissioner Moritas or Vice Mayor Moritas had an opportunity to meet her before. I don't know that the rest of you have, so I'll turn it over to her. Thank you.
For the record, Megan Gaylord. Nice to meet everybody who I haven't met already. So for the Computer Software and Programs Inventory Review, what we did was we did a review to determine if the ITS Master Inventory listing for computer software and programs was accurate and up to date. We reviewed based on the list they had, and we reviewed all the different departments and charter offices throughout the city. We compared it against the NIST framework, which is the National Institute of Standards Technology, for the best practices on how to control security risks. We found that there were material weaknesses within the master inventory listing, which mean they potentially could be exposed to potential security vulnerabilities and breaches. With this report, it is a summary report. It does not go into further detail because by putting the further details in there, it could actually create more exposure. So we can do that in more detail if you want in one-on-one meetings. Otherwise, the material weaknesses is the summary. ITS agreed with the 2 findings and the 4 recommendations and have already started working on the remedial actions.
Anyone have any questions? Commissioner McKenzie, I don't see you on the line. Did he drop off?
Yeah, I don't see him on the Zoom call any longer.
Mayor, I did have just one question.
Go ahead.
Maybe he is there. Just not.
Thank you. So if you look at page 2 of 3
I'm here.
on the CAM, I was just wondering where it gets into those findings and deficiencies. Did we actually have all of those? The deficiency in internal control, the second bullet, a significant deficiency, the third one, a material weakness in internal control. So did we actually identify all of those deficiencies?
No, those are standard definitions so that as we make different references in the report, you know what they are. The only one that we have is material weakness for this, for the entire program.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions?
I'm here, Mayor.
Yeah, Commissioner McKenzie was there. I just didn't, I didn't see his
Commissioner
video.
McKenzie, what question do you have?
I don't have any questions.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just under the weather. Yeah, I'm under the weather, so I'm not really, showing my face.
Okay. All right, sorry to hear that. All right, on to the next item, which is CF2. This is a summary of follow-up audits as of September 30th, 2021.
Me again. So currently we have 8 open recommendations for the city from 4 different reports. Some are older, some are newer. 3 of them are the recent Public Works report that was issued about 2 months ago, so they're still in progress. We have one that's for the finance department with duplicate P-card detection, and another one that's based on succession planning for human resources, both of which will be resolved with the ERP implementation that's happening currently that just started. So hopefully first or second quarter of next year. The additional one is training for human resources, which was a survey to different new hires and new hire employees to provide feedback on how to move forward on different things, which is currently being analyzed. Additionally, there was an HR finding to make one consolidated employee manual, which most of the website has the different direct links now, so they're just finalizing a few more things and that one will be implemented. And last but not least, the audit of code enforcement for the lien process. They're about 25% of the way done for reviewing the records to determine the outstanding code liens and implementing policies and procedures to communicate the different information with finance. And those are the only 8 that are still open.
Okay. Anyone have any questions?
I do, Mayor. I do have a question.
Go ahead.
So thank you. So I was reading this and I'm glad to see that some of these are getting, closed out. What happens when we do, when your office actually commissions an independent audit report? Does then that be taken up by your office? I'm thinking in particular, I know that we're waiting on the results of a forensic audit with regards to purchasing and public works and Rio Vista. When that's finished and that comes to us as a report, does your office then take the lead in opening your own audit for action and also including the audit advisory board? How does that work? How does the independent audits that we do play into these kinds of open audit finding status reports that you issue?
So there's a couple of questions in there. The audit tracking system that we have set up is intended to capture the internal audit reports that we do, as well as all the external audit reports that are done, including the annual financial audit, single audit. Also, if there were any audits that were performed by outside agencies like HUD or FDLE or something else, those are also captured and tracked in there until they are remediated. So when this particular one that we have in the works right now is done, the findings and recommendations from that report will be added to the tracking system and will be monitored and brought forward to the commission for your information and understanding on a regular basis. But we don't open another audit. We follow up on the findings and recommendations that are the result of the audit that we have performed. Does that address your question?
Yes, thanks. I just had to unmute myself. Sorry for the delay. They keep telling me to mute myself as soon as I finish, so I'm sorry about that. Yes, thank you, John.
And just to let you know, from a timing perspective, we're hoping to have a draft report on that this week, which we will then review. We will share that with the city manager when we get a revised draft back. And again, we're hoping to have that on. We're still shooting to have that on the commission meeting for December the 7th with a Zoom presentation by the auditors as was requested by the commission.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I'd just like to say, as a part of this agenda item, that I just want to point to the fact that we've taken John's audits very seriously, and we 99% of the time agree with the recommendation. You can see there on the number of open findings, we've been as high as having 64 open in September of 2019. So we're pushing to get that 8 to 0, but 8's certainly of the right direction compared to where we've been.
Okay, great. Okay, so on to business 1, discussion of the office of the city clerk. I think we should abolish it, right? No one can follow Jeff's footsteps, so, let's just... So what is the discussion?
So this was brought up by one of the commissioners. I think it was Commissioner Glassman that brought it up, that says, this commission is going to be faced with making a decision on replacing the city clerk. As you know, Jeff has indicated his intent to retire. and we'll really miss him being here as a part of our organization. But rather than wait for that to happen, since we know it's coming in a couple months, to start a discussion now as to what the commission generally is thinking about wanting to do. It is your hire, so it's just like a charter office of the other three of us that are sitting here. And you certainly have options. If you choose that you want to go to the market, we can assist with that through our human resource department. If you choose that you want to place either on an interim or permanent basis somebody that's already employed in our organization, we can certainly assist with that too. But I don't have a presentation, nor do I really have a recommendation. I'm just looking for you all to start discussing it so that doesn't catch us in the end.
Vice Mayor, do you have anything? Because I just wanted to say that I've been on this commission where we've hired a couple of different clerks, and both one from the outside and one from within. And we've had much greater success when we've hired from within than we have by hiring, doing a dragnet search and reaching out to other communities. It involves a huge learning curve. It could take, many, many months or over a year to try to understand our facilities and our practices. And, I personally would just as soon hire, from within and be able to continue functioning seamlessly as I know that it'll be difficult for anyone to try to understand the clerk's job, from just having no experience with Fort Lauderdale. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Thanks. Yeah, I'd like to get, I'm open to that possibility as you share. I'd like to get, Jeff, your thoughts and reactions. I know this is going to be your lead. Any suggestions in terms of process for this or things to consider? And then Alan, I'd like to get yours as well. And even Tarlisha, I think, too. Just around this process, any suggestions, if that's all right. Jeff?
My suggestion would be to promote David Solomon, the deputy city clerk, and as the mayor said, and I even pointed out a couple times earlier to a couple commissioners to do this as soon as possible, the better things will go.
Okay.
For the office as a whole. And I think David is perfectly qualified and ready to go.
Okay.
That was part of my job.
How big is the city clerk's office, Jeff? How many personnel?
We have 11 members, and we have 6 full-time in the clerk's office, and when you include Jeanette, that's 7.
Okay.
So we have a few part-time as well.
Okay.
So we're at about 8 and change FTEs.
Okay. And how long has David been working at the city clerk's office?
He was my first hire, so it's been about 5 or 6 years, David? 5.5 years.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, Tarlisha, to get your thoughts or feedback on this, is given your HR experience.
In my wisdom, I'm going to defer to my city manager since he said that he's going to defer to the commission. That's the first step. Tarlisha Smith, Assistant City Manager and Human Resources
Tell us what you really think.
Exactly. Chris, cover your ears.
Yeah.
Earmuffs.
I can say that my personal experiences in working with David has been exceptional, and I too believe in opportunities for internal candidates and continuity of operations, and I do believe that there's a serious learning curve beyond the work that's done for the commission. There are lots of other assignments that go with that would have a huge learning curve, and we would probably have had to start some months ago to catch up to that and be up to date with everything we need to do for continuity. So I don't have a recommendation. I'm deferring to the manager, but those are my 2 cents. And I have salary information if that's requested for the ranges for the position. I know that may not be a discussion for today, but it's available for the commission whenever they're ready for it.
And Tarlisha, could you just make an opposing argument of why doing a national search would make sense if you were advocating for that? I'm not saying you are.
Yes, again, deferring to my city manager and whatever comment that he has. A compelling argument for or not going out for an external search would be primarily the continuity of operations because of the critical nature of the city clerk's office, especially its service to this board, to the commission. The learning curve, I don't know that we really have time for something like that. If you would recall that, having the experience of going out when we just did the police chief recruitment, we always expect to attract candidates that would be qualified to basically step right into the role. We don't always have that experience. And I don't believe that this board has the, how can I say it, the luxury of waiting for that type of opportunity to come about. I think we probably can benefit from an internal appointment, but again, deferring to the city manager for any comment from his office.
Yeah, so let me try to make the counter argument I think that you're asking for is what's the counter argument? So the counter argument is if you would have done a nationwide search the last time you placed a city manager, you probably would have gotten a superstar. Having said that,
instead we got you.
We did get
and instead, this is what we ended up with. So the argument is always, we don't know what's out there until we go ask, and that's really there's a lot of talented people out there. There's probably a lot of talented people that if we don't go looking, we will never find. But that's again balanced against the fact that there's some true successes in just having a clerk that did a good succession plan, so that when he's ready to make this announcement, that we do have such talent behind him in that office.
Okay, good. Alan, any thoughts, feedback?
Just a couple of things. One, just for your purview, under the charter, unlike, let's say, my position, there are no particular pre-qualifications for the position, so you don't have to overcome any particular criteria. There's, institutional knowledge is invaluable, obviously, as I think you've all pointed out. And to the extent that the commission would be inclined to look out, my only word would be to you'd have to really, I think, stay within Florida. You need someone that knows Florida election law, Broward County law. There's, again, that learning curve. If for some reason you would go out, it would need to be someone that is more local than anything else, because that is a unique, beyond just the city of Fort Lauderdale, but just the state and the various laws we have to deal with. And beyond that, again, I can't make a recommendation, but certainly my experience with David has been exceptional.
Okay, great, thank you. I'd actually have a few questions for David, Mayor,
Right ahead.
if that's all right. Is that okay? David, why don't you come on up here?
Not to put you on the spot, or
Not to put you on the spot, and Chris, we did find a superstar in the city manager's role. So, David.
Who?
So let's
That was a superstar, but he wouldn't work for us, so we ended up.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. We had to settle. David, so tell us, I guess I'd like to hear a couple things from you. One, most importantly, is this something you're interested in? Are you interested in this role? And do you feel you're kind of qualified and able to take it on?
Yes, I'm definitely interested in the role, and I feel that I'm qualified. I've worked with Jeff for 5.5 years now, and he's done an amazing job bringing me into everything, so I have knowledge of every part of our office.
Tell us a little bit, just so everyone's kind of aware, give us a little bit about your education and background and experience.
I graduated from UCF with a 4-year in psychology, and then I worked in the private sector for about 3 years. I've been with the city now for 13 years in December, and a while I've been with the city. I got my master's in public administration, and I started in the city manager's office and then came over to the clerk's office.
Okay, great. And in terms of what do you think you bring to the table that would make you a successful city clerk? What strengths do you have?
I would say the number one is continuity. I believe our office is running exceptionally well, and I am confident that everything that we provide now, we won't miss a beat, and we'll continue on the path that we are on.
Okay, great. Thank you, David. I just wanted to get a little bit of questions there, Mayor.
Do you have any comments or questions, Vice Mayor?
Yes, I'm a little bit more simple, but I like to like who I work with, and I like you, and I think you do a great job. And I have great staff too. I really like them, so I kind of hire maybe for more from the gut. And last time we interviewed for a charter officer position, I knew immediately that Alan was the best choice, just, kind of quickly. So I don't want to miss the opportunity to hire someone like you and just to go outside of that personally. So I'd like to see you take the position.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the commission have any questions?
I don't have a question,
Not a question, but just a comment. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Go ahead, doesn't matter. After you, sir.
Okay. So yes, Mayor, actually, when I did bring this up at the October 21 meeting, I did bring it up because I was concerned that we would be caught last minute when Jeff would leave and we would be looking around and we would lose time. If I remember correctly, actually, Jeff started the job as the interim, but I don't think that always works because then he had to do his job plus be the interim clerk in that job, and that's just too much, and I don't think that's fair to anyone coming in. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. It's exactly what I thought we needed to do in advance of when Jeff leaves us. And I too think David is ready to step into that role, and I'm glad to hear that he's interested. And I think it would behoove us to move forward in that direction and not skip a beat and not lose any time and to have that continuity. So I'm good with that too. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner McKenzie.
Keep mine pretty simple. I concur with the Vice Mayor, the Mayor, and Commissioner Glassman. I didn't really get an answer out of Mr. Sorensen. I guess he's going with the internal piece, but he put two options on the table. But I, too, have been here. This will be my third clerk. I think we did a great job when we chose Jeff. I think Jeff did a great job in choosing David. And I've had a great experience of working with David my 8 years here at the city in all of his capacities. And I think institutional knowledge is just invaluable. And I, too, will choose David each and every time.
All right, very good.
Yes. So,
Does that give you direction?
Mayor, yeah, if I can just weigh in. Yeah, so I think a couple thoughts. One, my general preference is always to do a nationwide search, even if you have phenomenal internal candidates. I think it oftentimes still makes sense to do a nationwide search. I think city clerk's a little bit unique in kind of its functionality and so forth. So that in combination to my desire to always promote from within, I'm a big believer of promoting within. I think David makes a whole lot of sense and it would be just fantastic for us as a city clerk. So he has my full support. Now, kind of separate from that, but I think it's just something for us as a commission to think about, down the road is diversity. And when you look at our charter officers, great performers, fantastic, and not incredibly diverse group. So I think that's just something for us to think about down the road. But I think David would be fantastic and great fit. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you so much. See all of our charter officers.
So what we can do is bring forth a resolution appointing. We just need to pick a date, an effective date, and we can bring that forward to you at the next meeting, and you can vote on that. And then we'll, I guess, presumably, from a salary standpoint, that's something that discussions may be had beforehand. That's up to you with regards to that, but we can certainly have a resolution prepared for you.
Any objection to that?
That sounds good.
No, but Mayor, maybe Jeff can leave earlier.
I'll share your thoughts with him. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
I think Jeff
Nice
is-
orchid, by the way. Go ahead. You can mute yourself now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Isn't Jeff suggesting that we possibly hire the interim right now, or at least start advertising it for the position with Tarlisha so that David isn't slammed with double positions in January?
Well, that's a good idea. Who's going to, because there's a vacancy once Jeff moves up.
Right,
I mean,
so
once,
can we move forward with Tarlisha looking for the interim before we pass the resolution, or is that going to be a resolution tonight?
No, it won't be tonight, but because we don't have the time restraints that we have to have tonight. But
I think the answer to the question is we can begin, if you will make this decision to appoint David as the future clerk, we can work with the clerk's office to immediately start to fill his soon-to-be vacated position.
Right, by January, just so we're on that timeline.
Try to do as much of that simultaneously as we can.
And I don't know
Because
how-
David's replacement won't be appointed by you. That's
Correct.
by the city clerk.
Right.
So that's something that internally can occur while we.
Right, I'm just wondering if it can occur before we pass the resolution, so that this person is in place by the time David starts in January.
So,
Okay.
so let me just so I'm kind of tracking this. So Jeff, what's your last day of employment?
I'm going to take a couple weeks of vacation. I think my last day on my letter was somewhere mid to late January.
Okay.
And I think my last day prior to the 2 weeks vacation is January 8th or 9th.
Okay. So we would want, am I understanding this right? We want David to become the Fort Lauderdale City Clerk on January 8th or thereabouts?
He'd be interim clerk until the end of his 2-week vacation, and then be officially the clerk.
We can, there's ways to create the paperwork there that'll make it work. You can appoint him as the clerk, and we can work through that HR side of the house.
Great.
So you don't have to do multiple appointments. I think what we do at this point is there's clear direction. The city attorney will assist with working through some type of employment agreement, and then we'll bring a resolution forward. And we have plenty of time to do that, so we can get that in the next 2 meetings, I would say.
Okay, great. And then will we determine salary when the resolution comes forward? Or how do you want to do, what's that process?
It's been done different ways. We can start the ball rolling again. It's contractual since he's a charter officer, so we can get the contract going, and then there's perhaps individual conversations that you may want to have with David just to talk about that. And then we can throw some numbers out there. I mean, there's a variety of ways we can do it, but we can get to a number and see. We'd hate to just do it on the dais, so hopefully we can come to a number that you're all going to be comfortable with at the time, so we don't have to waste your time here at the dais.
Okay, that's fair. I think we can do that individually with Chris and you and David. Okay, great. Thank you.
Why don't we start by just providing you all the range, so
Yep.
you can start to think about it, and then those conversations are better individually, and then collectively, we'll bring forward a resolution that we think captures the feedback we get along the way.
Perfect. Sounds good. Congratulations, David.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to city commission reports. Vice Mayor, do you have any reports for us today?
Yes, thank you. I just want to say, Steve, that I really enjoyed spending time with you and your family yesterday and remembering your mom. Esther was a lovely lady, and she leaves a great legacy with you and Susan, your sister. So thank you for allowing me to attend that with you. And it's hard to talk a lot about things after something like that, but so forgive me for pivoting. Recently, my district, we discussed pickleball and the possibility of the pickleball complex being next to the Beach Community Center. Some of the neighbors had some concerns, so we're looking at possibly a different option, maybe something that's a little less noisy. But that made me think about the pickleball unsolicited proposal. Are we moving forward with that? Where are we with that? We accepted it?
It's scheduled for us to discuss in a shade meeting this afternoon.
Okay. Did I know that? I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. Do I have that? Good. Well, I'm looking forward to discussing
Initially, and I'll throw it out there to the commission, we've got a court reporter showing up at 4:30. Depending on what the length of this meeting is, I may move that to 5:30. So just do it right in advance of tonight's evening meeting. So it'll either be at 4:30 or 5:30.
Shade meeting on the agenda.
When we talk about unsolicited proposals, it's not advertised.
Okay. And okay. Well, thank you for giving me that update. I'm glad it's happening. And just to let you all know, just in case you're curious, we have $3.5 million to spend on the park via the park bond on some park improvements next to the Beach Community Center and the Galt. We were looking at an elevated platform with pickleball on top. But, some of the neighbors just directly to the west of that along the intercoast are a little bit concerned. So we had a good conversation talking about a lot of additional possibilities. And Phil is going to work with AECom and to bring back maybe something a little less noisy and busy in that space. But
So you're saying that putting a set of pickleball courts on top of a covered parking structure, you think people will be noisy and it will it will upset the people that live in and around that area. Is that what you're getting at?
Well, directly to the west of it, right? The pickleball courts would be right next to those 3 buildings that are just to the west of the Beach Community Center, next to Bow Campers and the Galt. So they were a little concerned. They do want something. So I thought it was a good conversation. And so Phil's gonna, like I said, work with AECOM and bring back a different possibility of some recreational space in that area to capitalize on the park bond money. So we'll see. But that being said, there may not be the opportunity to have a convention style 16-court pickleball facility at next to the Beach Community Center. So that may play into our conversation later.
Well, I just want to say that tennis people are not as noisy. We're very polite.
Yes, I hear that too, but I don't know. Yeah, there's enough room for that. So just conversations
Want to
we're
put
having.
tennis courts up there, I would be in favor of that, especially if there were indoor tennis courts. I think you'd get a lot of
Right. Well, we talked about indoor, but I don't think we have enough money for indoor anything. Right, Phil?
I know.
I don't think the $3.5 million goes that far. So thank you. That's about it. Okay.
Anything
That's for me.
else?
Nope.
That's it. Okay, Commissioner Glassman.
You keep forgetting me. I'm normally in that seat next to you.
Yeah, I'm going by district number 1, 2.
Oh, you changing your order. You normally go
Well,
her to
since
me.
you're not here.
Go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead, Commissioner.
No, I
Go
want to
ahead.
make sure. I want to just say, all I want to do is
No.
be here. No, you go ahead. Commissioner Glassman.
I want you to go. You're in that next seat, Commissioner McKenzie. Go ahead.
So are you to the right.
Go ahead.
Me, right. No, I just have 2 questions. Actually, Steve, one of them's for you. First of all, let me apologize for not being there yesterday. I had the Sis Trunk Golf plan. That was a big event we had, a great success. But my prayers are with you. And it was great meeting your mom when I did. And she has left a legacy in you. And if your sister's anything like you, she did a good job with her as well. So my prayers are with you. And keep your head up. From my opinion, she was a great lady. Secondly, on the Bahia, I keep hearing rumors about we're there, we're not there. I know there's 2 groups meeting. Do you know where we are right now? No, it's your district. And Mayor also is running.
Well, I know that we've scheduled a workshop on November 16th at 11:30
I got that too.
And I still have 2 meetings scheduled, I think, before then. I have one with, I think, John and Alan regarding the financials. And I also have a meeting with the boat show folks at the same time in the same meeting with the tenants. So I know I have those 2 meetings just to see that everyone's on the same page prior to our workshop. But that's about as much as I know.
You don't see any obstacles of moving forward with this anytime soon? Even I know what the outcome of the workshop is going to be, typical behavior of the nays and the yays if we have those. But I guess I just kind of want to, get this behind us at some point. I mean, but
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to us moving forward.
Just piggyback on what Commissioner Glassman just said. I have also been meeting with the same folks that the commissioner mentioned. In fact, I just met with the developer right before this meeting to go over the financial aspect of it. I believe the site plan is kind of, we're coming together on that between Informa and the developers. So we're making a lot of progress there. But now the question is the dollars and cents. And I think, that's kind of where we're at right now. But like the commissioner said, we had long planned to have this workshop in 2 weeks, and at that time, we'll be able to bring to the public what the latest version is, and at that time, we'll also invite public input to get people to react to what both Commissioner Glassman and myself have been able to achieve. All right. You're on mute. Commissioner, you're on mute.
My other question would be, I know an email came out from your office, Chris, yesterday saying that we're open for business and all of our restrictions are down. We never had a mandate to wear masks or to do some of the things. We just kind of, from a commission perspective, put some some policies that's in place and just recommended and suggested. So I don't see the expediency to take it down, especially without talking to us, since it was our idea to just try to make our employees safe. So, I mean, I appreciate your email, but I would have thought we would have that conversation about what we want to do to protect our employees.
And those are fair comments. I guess I took it from the perspective that the facilities fall within the operations of the city, and I can tell you, with the restriction of 2 people in an elevator in City Hall, we were getting quite the backups just trying to get mobility in the building, particularly because as you know, we've had some challenges with our elevators just because of their age. So, in looking at the in looking at the data and looking at what the school board was doing and all. We were really down to a traffic jam in the lobby. Masks are still not discouraged for those that feel more comfortable. But as far as it being a requirement to somebody walk in the door, I thought we were at a position and at a place that we were ready to remove those impediments in the facilities and go back to a more normal operating.
But again, I think the commission came up with the idea because you didn't. And I think we should have been a part of that process to make that determination. And I think the backup of the jam in the lobby is the elevators not working properly here the last couple of months, more so than it is 2 circles in an elevator that we used for almost 15 months, and it was fine. Just to jump them to conclusions on this decision is where I'm concerned. I mean, it was our decision to put it in place. It should have been our decision to take it out of play. And please, other commissioners, chime in if you feel the way I feel. But I'm only looking out for the employees, and I'm not in any way, form, or shape talking about mandate. I'm just talking about something that will remind me, to take my temperature. Something to remind me to, still keep social distancing, because this is not over. This is not over, and I'm not in there today because I'm not feeling well, but I've been tested. I don't have COVID, but it was recommended I don't go around people right now. So that's why I'm not here today. But again, how do you all feel about what I'm saying?
Anyone have any comments? I'm very comfortable personally with what the city manager has implemented for City Hall. I think it's in compliance with the science, as well as staying away from any restrictions that the governor's office has imposed on municipalities. So I think we're doing our best given the current conditions. Does anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I was one of the ones advocating for masks here, and I still have 2 little girls that are unvaccinated who are susceptible to deadly pandemic. So I'm gonna keep wearing masks, and probably folks that meet with me, I'm going to be expecting them to wear masks. But I'm also comfortable with the city manager's decision here.
Any other thoughts? You're good.
I mean, I think I'm comfortable with the city manager's direction also, but just like Ben, I mean, I'm happy to wear a mask if somebody wants me to wear a mask or they feel more comfortable. And I'm happy to get the 3rd shot soon. I mean,
I've been asked to wear a mask, but it has nothing to do with COVID.
Okay.
We got to change that face of yours.
Okay.
Even.
Anything else, Commissioner?
No, that is it for me.
You feel better. Sorry you're
thank you.
Better.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's see. Who would be in the 3rd seat? Oh, Commissioner Glass.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, feel better, Commissioner McKenzie. I'm so glad now that I didn't see you yesterday, and I feel bad for everybody that did see you yesterday if you're so sick today. So feel better.
Listen, I was fine yesterday. At 4 o'clock, I started getting these chills. I'm like, what the heck happened? I don't know if I ate something, but I was with Ben this morning, and then I went to the doctors after that, and they just said, just stay away from people of a couple of days.
That's a good idea. Stay away from people.
Especially you, Stephen.
Yes, thank you. Mayor, I just want to say thank you to you and everyone. It was really an honor to see everyone at Mom's Service yesterday, and also from the city staff and Chris and everyone, and just really thank you. It meant a lot to the family, and so many beautiful cards and texts and social media comments and emails and phone calls, and I just want to say thank you. I'm not going to belabor the point, but it was
The flowers. Did you like them too?
yes.
We said
Can I, Mayor? You're going to interrupt me now while I'm thanking everybody. Can I just? I'll get. Yes, the flowers. The flowers were beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, everything was beautiful. It was very special, and it's been a tough week. What can I say? It's been a tough week. So I do apologize also to the appointments that I canceled in the second half of the week, and I didn't make some of the things. And I hope people understand, but I did the best that I could. And again, I just wanted to say thank you. It's so appreciated, all of the kind words. And Mom did get a chance to come to City Hall a couple of times, and she did make it to the swearing in, the first one in 2018. And she really did enjoy meeting everybody. And actually, she always used to say, "Oh, that Commissioner McKenzie is so handsome." So, go figure. You can't figure people's tastes sometimes, but it's okay. But she did say that. So again, thank you. She had a great life and gave me and my sister a great life. And, that's the most important thing. Thank you. So I did, before all of this happened, towards the end of the week, I did manage to do a few things. I did stop by the Florida Federal Gardens Club annual Fall District 11 meeting, and it was very informative, a great program. Saw some great speakers, and that was terrific. In fact, one was about Adopt the Dune program, and I'm hoping that our city can get involved in some of that. Pompano is almost like 100% done with their Dune program on the beach, and I've submitted the gentleman's name and all that information to Chris and to Phil in Parks and Rec, and I think we should look at some of those programs. They raise all the money, they get all the volunteers. We don't have to do much, and I think it makes a heck of a lot of sense. So I hope we can do that. I was able to, cut the ribbon with Commissioner Sorensen and the mayor for the opening of the boat show, and that's always a thrill and full throttle. They were right, full crowds, everything, great spirit out there. I did manage to get back also again the next day on Thursday. I thought the Global Business Luncheon was terrific on the opening day. Those two really bright young men, just incredible. The knowledge that they have and the speakers were incredible. Thursday, October 28th was the Central Beach Alliance meeting. And then there were some great events that I apologize again for not making. I was supposed to make it to the Fort Lauderdale Concourse on top of the garage, Las Olas Garage, also a Fraser Living Fraser proclamation I was going to do that day. Sorry I could not join you all for the Inter Miami final season match on Saturday. I also regret not being able to make it to the History Makers 25th anniversary, which I heard so many good things about. I did actually make it this morning. I can't even believe I did, but I did. I felt that I wanted to represent the city because I was slated to go to the Port Everglades and join the county in welcoming our newest ship to the port, the Celebrity Apex. And I was able to present from the office of the mayor a proclamation for the new ship. So that was really very exciting. That's such a vital industry to our city and our county and our region. So I think we always have to do everything we can to make sure that that industry comes back. In my place today, Nancy attended the grand opening for the HTG Village View, another really great affordable housing project in Flagler Village. Coming up this week, we have the Victoria Park Civic Association meeting, some more solid waste working group. I'm going to tour the new James Club facility. I'll speak at the Neighborhood Leadership Academy. And then, of course, on the 11th, we have Light Up Lauderdale. Quality Florida is coming to town for its 2021 Broward Gala on the 11th. And that's about it from me, Mayor. So thank you. And again, thank you, everyone. I really, really appreciate everybody's support during this week. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Commissioner Sorensen.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Thought we had amazing boat show, evidently one of the best ever. So the numbers are still coming in, but just very, very successful. So that's excellent. We opened up at F3, a new dry stack marina right in Harbordale off 17th Street, which is just awesome. Amazing.
That was amazing.
Isn't it an amazing facility, Mayor? I mean, it's just incredible. Automated. Just a great time. So thanks for being there, Mayor. The History Maker celebrating the Dennison family. Mayor, is great celebrating that and just the confluence of history of the Dennison family. And there's going to be more kind of written about the Dennison family. And it's just, there's fascinating background there. So more to come on that. Monday was a sad day for me. Commissioner Glassman being with your family and your mom and just her quick wit. Obviously, those are the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Getting that quick wit and she's just wonderful soul. And so being with you there was great and very sad, but wonderful celebration of her life. And before that, in the morning, I was at it's now called Florida Live Arena, the Panthers arena where the Panthers hosted, probably 3,000 of us for Hollywood police officer Yandy Chirino was killed in line of duty. 28 years old, protecting the city of Hollywood, and was gunned down. Stolen gun from Miami-Dade. And it just is heartbreaking to be there and experience it. And I thank our law enforcement officers day in and day out for all they do, and for the Panthers for hosting us there on an incredibly difficult day. And going forward, we've got some great neighborhood meetings coming up, and I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, this past week we've all met with a lot of bittersweet moments, and thank you all for being part of some or all of them. But it goes to show you what a robust community we live in. And we have a really great community, and so many good things are happening. And, we try to weather the good with the bad. And in the end, we're here, and thank God we have a future to look forward to. A lot of events that happened since our last meeting. The White Party for the Winterfest Boat Parade, tremendous turnout, wonderful success. We actually had an opportunity to go to the River Oaks Stormwater Preserve, which was Commissioner Sorensen and I did a ribbon cutting there, which goes to show you how you can do a stormwater project and still make it a destination. It was a beautiful park and wildlife preserve. And I commend whoever designed that. I hope we're going to continue to keep you on staff because you did an amazing job of trying to create a multi-purpose facility, taking on the need to mitigate stormwater at the same time creating a great destination for families and neighbors who want to come and just spend some time in a beautiful setting. I attended the Wings Wheels event at FXC put on by Shelter. Sorry, put on by Shelter. Great event. Thank you, folks, for sponsoring that, and for all the associate sponsors for that event. Thank you so much. It was really a wonderful way to continue to show what we have to offer here in Fort Lauderdale. And as Commissioner Glassman pointed out, the ribbon cutting of the boat show. The reason why that's important is because, as you all know, last year we had a very abbreviated boat show, and I appreciate the county and the city working together to ensure that we at least had something last year. But this year we saw an amazingly robust boat show, and the excitement was unparalleled in all the years that I've attended. And I hope the numbers do materialize to something significant for all the vendors and the people that make this their living. It's a remarkable economic engine as well as a tourist attraction. And I don't know, I met so many people from other states, many of whom were telling me they just bought a condo or bought a house here in Fort Lauderdale, which made me feel good that we're doing something right, folks. And we're doing something that makes Fort Lauderdale very appealing to others around the country. So we're excited about that because the attraction of others who come to this community bring the imagination of new amenities, new ideas, things that make living in Fort Lauderdale more and more exciting each year. I also attended a reception hosted by the British consulate. There was a British cabinet member that also came from England to Fort Lauderdale, and I also had a meeting afterwards with them, and we're hoping to establish a sister city relationship with England. Of all places, we don't have a sister city, so we talked about certain possibilities, and we're going to follow up with them. But they were very impressed with our community, and we're eager to stay and hesitant to leave. So I have to say that I think that the people in this community were great hosts, and I want to thank everyone who went to that reception and continue to show how we can be gracious to those who visit our town. I did attend the Fort Lauderdale Concourse Auto Shows. It was great. That venue on top of the parking garage is just a great place to have events like that. I think it was low impact. The music was moderate. The crowd was large, and the auto show was really quite unique. Unfortunately, those antique cars are actually cars when I was born, so I was a little taken aback that they're now called antique, but whatever. So and then the Florida history makers. And thank you, Commissioner Sorensen, for being there to read the proclamation, and the Dennison family, which not having been born here or brought up here, it was great to see a part of our history, how the Dennison family started Broward Marine, and really was an integral part in the success of the marine industry here, the growth, and the success of the marine industry here in Fort Lauderdale. So it was a great turnout, a wonderful crowd, a lot of faces that we don't often see come to our public events. So I thank the Historical Society and everybody who participated in that for putting on such a great event. Coming up, we have lots of grand openings and ribbon cuttings and lots of fun things happening. But I just want to point out one thing in particular, that on November 11th, on Veterans Day, we'll have a ceremony at the Sandy Nininger statue at 11 a.m. That will be the only remembrance. There will be no cemetery event or anything. We usually reserve that on Memorial Day. So 11 o'clock at the Sandy Nininger statue on November 11th. Also, next week, we start the series of lighting up Fort Lauderdale for the holidays, and November 11th, that same day, that evening, we'll have the first light up at the Esplanade Park to begin our holiday season. I hope everyone can come and enjoy the beginning of the holiday season. Those are most of the things I wanted to talk about. I just want to add a couple of things. Chris, maybe you can help me out with some of these. We brought up in previous meetings the Chick-fil-A and Starbucks traffic things. Have we done anything with regard to that? Have there been any?
We have. There's been application made to FDOT for additional exits, I believe, or an exit lane at Chick-fil-A. I'm looking at Ben. I'm going to ask him to come give an update.
Mr. Rogers, you want to come up?
I think it's moving at the speed of the state.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioner Ben Rogers, Transportation Mobility. We've had a series of conversations with Chick-fil-A and with FDOT on some of the things. Right now, our recent concept, and I think I reported back last time, was we're looking into the possibility of vacating the alleyway behind Chick-fil-A, which would allow them to redesign the drive-through queue that would wrap around their building one full time before it would go into the drive-through. And so it would add about 15 to 16 car capacity, which is pretty significant considering where they're at.
Yeah. Okay, great. So how long will that take to happen?
So right now they are modifying their design plans to incorporate that flow and what it would look like on paper. At the same time, we're having the conversations with FDOT on what the curb cut modifications would look like on Federal Highway. And once all of that comes back to us from Chick-fil-A, then we'll work with DSD and do an admin review and go through our normal process for them to make those site plan modifications.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you.
Ben, any movement on Starbucks or possibilities? I know we're more limited there.
Yeah, that one's there hasn't been as much focus on that one. We got the ball rolling on Chick-fil-A and are keeping the momentum going, but we can reconvene those conversations if you like. But as we talked about before, outside of going into the neighborhood, there's very little options we have at this time.
Wow. Thanks. Yeah. Chris, I guess connected to this, from a zoning and planning standpoint, being more judicious or limited in future drive-through, permitting and allowances. Can we be more limited
Smarter about it.
Smarter about it. Yeah. Basically, yes, Mayor. Can we be smarter?
Well, we had a McDonald's, and that's a popular chain, but
sure,
we've never had a problem. But somehow Chick-fil-A is more popular.
Sure. So is Starbucks, evidently, too. Yeah. Right.
We can. I'll look to Anthony or Chris Cooper to address that because all the planning and all the recommendations are done in that department. But I think we're cognizant now of intensity of use in drive-throughs and what they mean to thoroughfares.
Hi, correct. Chris Cooper, Deputy Director, DSD. So we are looking at that. I mean, this is obviously an issue we've been aware of with the Chick-fil-A and the Starbucks. So when we evaluate future drive-throughs, we'll look at things like stacking, drive-through capacity, and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So do we have the ability to deny use based on stacking? And I just want to understand.
So if they meet the code and there's no issues and Transportation Mobility signs off, we were going to look at the stacking aspects of the project. We wouldn't, but we can also look at the code to see if there's any enhancements or updates we can make to address some of those concerns going forward.
Yeah, so Chris Lagerblum, I'd like us to have some pretty significant latitude around stacking and evaluating projects and ultimately the possibility of denying projects when we feel like there is not, adequate stacking and so forth.
We'd have to make sure to look at the code that that's actually something that's a published requirement. They have to be on notice, obviously, beyond just us telling them. It's got to be codified, so we'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to make some changes to be able to give you that latitude.
Right.
But I just wanted to make sure that that was even something that we could. I guess it sort of speaks to that almost a neighborhood compatibility issue.
Mm-hmm.
Is it compatible with the surrounding
Right.
uses? So we will take
Okay.
we'll take a look at that in DSD.
And we have started those conversations. One of the issues, Commissioner, is that what you do for one, you do for all. So for those who might not need that stacking capacity, they would be applied with the same code and rules as those who do need it. So it does have some issues on how big of site plans you have, how big your site is, your parcel, things of that nature.
Okay. Yeah, Mayor, I think that's at least worth us contemplating and getting recommendations if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mayor, for bringing that up.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Could I just ask Ben Rogers if there's been any discussion about the Trader Joe's while they're working on all these FDOT issues? I still hear complaints about that. I know that turning lane, that left turning lane, if you're heading south on Federal and you're trying to make that left turn into that Trader Joe's Plaza, that's a nightmare too because the queue is so short there. Has there been any discussion about that?
So, Commissioner, I can't speak to that personally, but I can go back to staff and find out. I know that FDOT's study, FDOT did do a study in that area. I'm not sure what the bounds were, but I can find that information and get back to you.
No, thank you. I know there's been some issue about how many feet the next traffic light is or something like that, but it's still not good there. It's just not a good situation.
And Commissioner, I agree that I would agree that it's not good there. Unfortunately, the conditions haven't changed any, and you are correct. It is the distance to that next traffic light to the north that causes it to be not far enough apart for a signalized intersection. If there was going to be anything to do there, it would have to be significant, probably redesign and reconstruction.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Chris, just so I'm putting a point on it, as we explore the drive-through possibility is, I think Alan mentioned this, is possibly exploring a code change if necessary, right?
I think it has to.
It has to, exactly. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Also, where are we on our leaf blower issue? Didn't we have that go out and it was supposed to come back to the commission?
It was, and it was Commissioner McKenzie that led that working group. Commissioner McKenzie, are you there? I think you're prepared to come back with the feedback to the commission. You're probably prepared now, but I can schedule it for a next
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready to go whenever they're ready to go. Whenever our schedule permits. You guys have been loaded down with a lot of other important matters and not realizing how important leaf blowers are. So we need to get that on there.
Yep, I can put it on the next conference meeting.
Okay, great.
We're ready.
The protein skimmer project. We did the pilot. Where do you think we're going to go from here?
So we're reviewing the data that they submitted to us based upon the pilot, and it really is showing us that there's an opportunity for use in the event we have a specific use that we're responding to or a specific event, and that it didn't really show that unless we were to keep it in repetitive use in the same place, that the results would hold over time. So we are looking at its opportunity to be used in the event that we have a very targeted use for it. But in a tidally exchanged body of water, the data, it was good while it was there, but the conditions as they existed pre it being there returned rather quickly.
So where do you think is that an item that should be brought up at a conference meeting to discuss next steps and where the commitment of the city is going to be in terms of funding any future projects? Where do you think we should go?
I think future funding is probably key. And I know that they had talked about pursuing some state funding. We invested just shy of about $300,000 in the pilot that we did. There are no additional funds budgeted for continued use at this point. I would have to appropriate funds in the event we had some type of an emergent event to utilize it in that circumstance. So we can schedule it, probably not for the next meeting, but we can schedule it for a future conference meeting.
Well, the reason why this is important is because, I think the commission should have some report as to the results, because we never really had an official. We just get some emails now and then from water seekers.
That is prepared.
Okay, so if we can have an official report and let there be public comment, and then the commission can make an intelligent decision as to what direction it wants to go.
Okay.
So it's my understanding, Mayor, the COVID, I don't want to say COVID funds, but the 19 million we got this year and the 19 we'll get next year, are those somewhat, I don't want to say limited, but do they encourage us to use the funds for waterway projects?
There's a list of projects, list of type of projects that you can use. We used most of the funds. We did that formula to do a revenue replacement and be able to identify that we had lost revenue because of COVID, because that was the least restricted use of those funds.
Right, so that was this year.
Correct. Once you got beyond that, then they had certain guidelines for things that they were suggesting that you could use it on, and more importantly, they said things you couldn't use it for.
Right.
We'll have to do that same thing in the second year, and probably the results are different because it's going to be probably harder to argue loss of revenue in the second year than
Correct, so maybe there's a possibility for some of those funds to be used for a project like this, and maybe in a few other places.
Yeah, we'll take a look.
All right, thanks.
So speaking of that, speaking of use of COVID funds, where are we with regard to our homeless housing?
So we were able to transition, so the funds for that too would now be coming from our general fund if we were to continue it. So we did have some pretty good successes in that hotel. We were able to place the last family unit of 3 into their permanent housing last week.
Great.
So as of today, we don't have anybody continued in that housing environment, but it was a good success story that the people that left it either left it voluntarily or they left it into permanent housing.
All right, that's great. But I mean, there are still homeless people out
There are, and we haven't talked to Judge Tudor yesterday. We haven't claimed success on homelessness.
Right.
We just that pathway has come to an end, but that doesn't mean we've.
So in implementing the community court, is it possible to direct some of the folks that are camping out on our streets or sidewalks through community court? And do we have permanent supportive housing for those folks?
We have had pretty good luck finding housing if we've found somebody that wants to receive housing.
Right.
Judge Tudor's request to me yesterday, and I haven't talked to the chief about this yet, so he's going to hear it for the first time, where it's not coming directly to him, is that the judge, both Judge Barner and Judge Tudor, have asked that we really try to overuse the community court for people that are experiencing homelessness, like really get out there and write some NTAs and force people into that environment. He's about to issue an order, and we'll have to watch for this in the coming days. I think he's mentioned it. He mentioned it to you, that he's going to be issuing an order here soon that has most crimes that are transported to the Broward County Jail will be issued their recognizance bond where they can sign themselves out. So he's even adding to the list of crimes of people that will just be in and out on their own signature. And so he's encouraging us to really utilize the community court, and if we think it might fit in the community court, send it to it. So again, I haven't had a chance to even talk to the chief about that yet, so he's heard it for the first time now, but that was our discussion yesterday afternoon.
Okay.
Chris, sorry, say that again. What Judge Tudor signing an order that allows people to be released?
He indicates that he's going to be adding in this order more crimes to the list of those crimes with people are able to sign themselves out of.
Okay.
They're able to sign themselves out of the jail as opposed to having to bond out or wait on a judge appearance.
Gotcha. Okay, so they'll be so they won't necessarily have to stay in the Broward County Jail.
That's correct.
They'll be released.
Fort Lauderdale.
To direct them through community court.
Right. Well, he says community court's going to be a better option. That's because of this order. One sort of plays off of the other. That the jail's not really, and we don't want to criminalize homelessness to start with, but
Correct.
it's really not a solution.
Correct.
It's an in and out, and it's going to become an in and out on even more things.
Gotcha.
But the problem we've had with community court is that we get a person here, and then we don't have housing for them to go into, so we send them away again, and that kind of defeats the whole purpose.
That is defeating, correct.
And part of the problem too, Mayor, if I may add, is we're starting to run out of, it may sound odd, but we're running into where we're having fewer and fewer folks participating because we're getting repeats of folks. We can bring them to community court, but if they refuse to participate, they refuse. And we end up with a much smaller pool now of folks that we can actually get to come to community court. And not all violations are able to be processed through a community court. Some of them have to go to state court. So I know that one of the issues we were dealing with from the prosecutional side is that we just don't have as many folks being able to come to community court because they just don't want to. We've run into that pool.
But is Judge Tudor now saying that he may change the court practice so that more and more can be processed through community court?
I haven't seen the order or I haven't spoken to Judge Tudor, but what it sounds like is there's going to be less crimes that you can be incarcerated for, meaning you're going to be able to release on your own recognizance on a lot more crimes, which means there's a lot more people that are going to be released into the community rather than staying in jail overnight or however long until arraignment. So it just sounds like you're going to have more opportunity, perhaps, for folks to get released a lot quicker, and I don't know that that's necessarily beneficial. But again, I haven't seen the order or what the nature of the offenses will be that will be released without incarceration.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, the point is, though, we have an institution. It's been, we've been utilizing it for a couple of years now. I'd like to think that there are benefits to it, and anytime we can take more advantage of it, we should, because I think the traffic into the court has come down to a trickle, and I don't think we're properly utilizing it to its fullest extent. That's all I'm saying. So.
That was the sentiment that Judge Tudor described to me yesterday.
Okay. And finally, I see that we have a new and improved website, and I don't know if you've all looked at it yet, but it's really great. I understand Greg Chavaria, our assistant city manager, had a lot to do with it, so shout out to him and shout out to everyone in strategic communications for doing such a great job. Thank you. So, yeah, because for example, I could not download the agenda on the normal way on the legislate icon, and I had to go to the website, and it was just like instant. So thank you. So if I can find it, anybody can find it. So, and that's it all. That's all I have. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, Mayor, if we're going to go into shade, or I'd like to actually, before we go into shade, even though it might be in a little bit, I'd like to get Phil to share with us a little bit about kind of just pickleball as a whole, because Phil won't be in the shade. So I think that'd be helpful.
No, Phil can be there. This isn't a closed door.
Okay, so Phil can be in the shade with us? Okay, perfect. Then that would be my request, Mayor. So I'm good then.
What time are we doing this shade meeting?
So let's, I do have one topic I need to bring up that's probably going to take a couple minutes to discuss. So if we say that this meeting's done at 3:30, why don't we?
We have CRA.
Yeah, we have a CRA. Why don't we do the shade meeting at 5:45?
So there'll be a break then?
Will not have come back to this room. We'll just plan on being in the 8th floor conference room at 5:45. And the two participants that are on the Zoom links will get a new link for that.
Okay. Because I have to
notify the court reporter of that time change.
I think I have to do it.
Hopefully she'll be available, but she should be. 15 minutes going to be enough then?
For the topic today, I believe it is, yeah.
Okay, so Mr. City Manager, you have a report.
I do. I've just got a couple of updates. So the first one had really good discussions with the boring company folks. We're working very quickly as we can on this project to get an agreement in front of the commission for your consideration. We changed last week a little bit, and now collectively both believe that it is correct to pursue an interim agreement first before pursuing a comprehensive agreement, and they are in agreement with that. So just an update for you there that the first thing you probably will see as a result of that action that you all took is an interim report. The second item I want to bring up, I'm going to try to delicately do, and I just need to get some feedback from the commission in this type of setting because I need some direction. We all know that the Pier 66 project that Tavistock, the development group, is doing down on 17th Street has really the north parcel and the south parcel. We refer to the south parcel as the sales parcel when we talk about it. I know that you all have been presented some renderings of some buildings that look differently than the sales project. And I know you have directed them to take it into the community and begin a dialogue that initially it's been told to me that you're not opposed to looking at a different development concept on the south side, especially if it's better for the city and better for that area as time has evolved. But there's one problem with the pictures that they have showed that everybody has seemed to like. And those buildings exceed the height that the PDD would allow. Today, the way the language in that code reads is you can have 125% of the existing height, but in no case shall it exceed 300 feet. That is what's in the code for PDD today. Those renderings of the buildings that you all saw on that site push the FAA limit for height, which is just under 500 feet. Very slender buildings compared to the bulky, massive one of the sales project. But what I need to get some idea from this commission before they continue to show those pictures is there the appetite for us to have in almost a parallel path a discussion on whether or not we have the correct language in the code for the PDD zoning district height today, or whether a project like that, because of its significance, is one that would cause us to want to reopen that discussion. Keeping in mind that you can't just change a code for one parcel in the city. There are other limiting factors in the PDD zoning designation, but if we were to do a change in the south part of the city to accommodate this type of a project, that would be applicable citywide. And so I just need to say that and then seek some of your feedback to me, excuse me, as to whether or not those renderings that are starting to be socialized are attractive enough that we should consider this ordinance change. Or if you tell me no, then I'm going to cause them to not do any more showing of the picture because there's really no sense in showing pictures of a project that's not possible.
Commissioner Sorensen, this is your district. Do you have any thoughts?
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Chris. So just to kind of translate this to layman's terms. So PDD is a zoning district, right? The south side, and if I'm understanding it right, part of the north side is PDD?
We've got a development agreement out there, but this is the code section, the zoning designation that would allow this type of a project to occur.
Right. On the, yep, okay. So on the south side and I think part of the west or north side. So the current zoning allows for 300 feet. Is that right?
Well, maximum.
No, the current zoning allows for 125% of the maximum height, which is a number that is, I think, 225 feet. It's substantially, I think, less than 300 feet.
Okay.
But the code reads that in a PDD, you can go 125% of what is the allowable height in the underlying zoning district up to a height no higher than 300.
Okay. So current zoning on the south side allows for about 225 feet. Is that what you're saying?
I think that's right. Chris has given me a nod. Yep, I got that right. Okay.
Okay. What's the height of the initial buildings they've been sharing? Or
We have Anthony. Can I borrow Anthony to the podium? I know it's significantly less. That sales project, a couple of times I've really seen the pictures of it. It's really a low, wide.
I'm sorry, I came into the conversation.
We're talking about the south side of Pier 66, the sales project.
Right, the old sales project.
So the sales project, if that were to be built, do you have any idea? I know what do you have any idea what height that building is proposed at?
Well, the one that was approved, I believe, it was really a little bit taller than the bridge itself. I can't remember the exact height, but the 17th Street Causeway Bridge, there wasn't a development approval that pretty much matched the height of the bridge. Maybe it was a little bit taller, but
That's 54 feet.
Okay. So that's what
50. That bridge is 54 feet.
That's at the bottom.
It's 50. Well, I guess it fluctuates too based upon the height of the water. Obviously, that's a fluctuating line too. So, the bottom of yes, I understand. And this is just in the context of this bridge discussion over here, that 54 feet, if you want to visually get in your head how high off the ground is 54 feet, picture the 17th Street Causeway.
Okay, so the current, and that's still an existing approved site plan, is that right?
There's an existing approved site plan for the sales project.
Right,
and I think it's, how many stories is that? You're saying it's just at the same height as the bridge?
it was approximately the same height as the bridge.
So it's
I
like
remember
80
the
feet?
renderings, it was a little bit taller. You could see it as you're coming over the bridge.
So maybe 80, 90 feet we're looking at?
Probably something like that.
And that project was this, if I remember, this denser, lower height. Okay.
It was a very long building that filled up pretty much the entire site.
Okay. Okay. So then the initial, and obviously this is just very initial discussions. What's the initial discussions of this new site plan or new towers?
Right, so
how high are they talking about?
Well, in order to build, so I think you've gotten a presentation from them. If you've seen the same pictures that we've all seen that they're starting to show around, those buildings built to the height, the FAA maximum height, which is just shy of 500.
500. Okay. So the idea of increasing the zoning to go from the 225.
Correct. As the zoning code exists today, the pictures you have seen are not buildable.
Right.
And so if I'm getting feedback that they've been met with support, or that people like him, people like the new renderings. And so I just need to get a sense as to whether or not we start a text amendment process moving forward with this PDD zoning designation, or we don't.
Yeah, so when they shared with these kind of initial concepts and height and wanting to move forward with this possibility, I connected them with the neighborhood Harbor Inlet, Harbor Beach mayor, and so they've been at least started to talk with our neighborhood leaders around this possibility.
And they've actually met with them and they've showed them the pictures, which
Okay.
is why I think it's timely that we have this discussion now, because it's one thing to show a rendering to the people that are eventually going to vote on it and get your initial reaction to it, versus now taking it into the community and saying, what do you think? Because then the community could go, wow, why didn't you propose that the first time? And all of a sudden we look silly if we get to the finish line and go, but you can't build it.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. So
can build the buildings, but the question is the number of floors that they can still have the same design.
Sure.
But this is the game. They already have an approved project which nobody likes, even the developer, and so they're hoping that they could switch from the old development plan to a new one, which has its own challenges based on our existing code.
Correct.
And so, they'll always say, well, if you don't agree to this, then we're just going to build the one no one wants. And I don't know how far that plays out, but I think that ultimately we need to agree on something that makes the most sense for the community. So
Right.
And that's
Right. So, as always for me, it's really important. The neighborhood is a critical part of this, and their guidance and feedback and reactions. And I haven't debriefed with the neighborhood since their initial, I don't think I've kind of heard their initial takes. But look, as always for me, I'm open to the discussion.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So to, have ongoing for the developer to be talking with the neighborhood, getting the neighborhood's feedback and so forth, and for us to explore options and how we feel and considerations about zoning changes, I'm completely open to those discussions, Mayor. So that's my
I
feedback.
think part of that discussion has to do, it would be helpful if we had some indication as to what traffic counts would mean, the approved project versus this project, what the site would look like. I know these are tall towers. They probably allow for more open space at the base versus what is currently approved. I don't know. I mean, keep in mind, folks, that the currently approved project was not done necessarily with the consent of the commission. They took us to court.
Correct.
And that correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct.
That project was forced upon the city by the courts. So no one liked it. Okay. So having said that, what are the alternatives? We've been faced with these kinds of choices all along. There were beach projects where one thing was approved and we ended up approving something else. So I don't know. Vice Mayor, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I'm just thinking about the process. So what I'm hearing is that possibly we want neighborhood feedback first, and then we will consider changing our ordinance to allow for greater height with the PDDs, and then they would apply or submit a PDD, because they have not submitted one yet, correct?
Yep, that's
So that
correct.
would be the
You couldn't submit this one
Correct.
because it doesn't comply.
So I'm not ready to say, yes, I love this project yet, because I think it's a little early. I did see the new buildings, and I thought they look good. But I'm not ready to kind of say yes or no about it. So I guess what I'm saying, I'm just trying to process the steps. Before we say yes, move forward with changing our PDD ordinance, I guess what I'm hearing you say, Ben, is maybe get a little bit more neighborhood feedback. And so that feedback would be on the project.
It's so early in that
Right.
process. Yeah. I think they just tiptoed into that right now. So even though the neighborhood has now seen it, we haven't really heard the reaction. They need to mull it over, think it through. And so you're right. I think that we need to have the benefit of neighborhood feedback as the information gets disseminated throughout the people that live in that area.
Sure. So, and I'm understanding the votes too. So to change the ordinance, it's a 3-2 vote, correct?
You need
That
at
is-
least 3 votes.
Yeah, that is correct, but then you
3-2.
need a supermajority to approve
But
a project.
to approve a PDD is a 4-1 vote. So that's, so they would still have to submit that also. So they have to overcome those obstacles. And then that it's also changing the PDD for our entire city. So we just have to understand that too. Have we had a successful PDD? I mean, I know that we've
We've had a
had some
couple of
shot,
applications since I've been here. We've had
they've been shot down.
Live Galleria project was or Live, I'm not sure what it was. That was a PDD, I believe. Bahia Mar was at one point a PDD or
Bahia Mar is not though right now.
no. And
So they're hard to get through.
been any,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can answer that. So they're not built yet, but 3000 Alhambra on the beach was a PDD.
Okay.
And the Towers Apartments, just off Las Olas, was a PDD application.
Okay, so there have been a few examples where it's worked in the city, and a few examples where it has worked.
They're not built yet. But
Well, we at least approved it, right? Or
But
did-
they're
yeah.
at the discretion of the commission nonetheless, even though
Right.
they're allowable, but it's still at the discretion of the commission.
Well, I'm
the
just,
even higher threshold.
yeah,
Right,
takes
but
the
we don't have to
supermajority.
do it. They can't say as a matter of right, we can go to such and such height. It's still at the discretion of the commission, correct, Alan?
yes, which is the 4-1, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
but I mean,
It is, right, it is, but if you do it for some and not others, then you have some questions. But Anthony,
But I mean, each building is built in a certain context that's different from another. There's neighborhood compatibility issues, there's traffic,
Right.
there's all those issues.
Right.
Right.
Height alone is not the deciding factor. So
Right. I haven't looked at the PDD language in a while, but maybe Anthony can answer it. But I believe it's discretionary, but there may be some.
Well, Anthony's coming up. Can someone just give me the synopsis on sales in the court case, or what happened? There was
They
the commission
instituted
opposed it, or what?
long time. I think pre all of us. They instituted a Burt J. Harris Act.
And it was not Tavistock that was a developer at that time.
Okay. Yep.
previous owner.
Right.
Correct.
So Tavistock inherited those rights, but the court essentially, basically through that challenge, through that act, it's sort of, if you don't have a takings, the Burt J. Harris Act allows you to have a takings claim if you don't have a takings claim.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of silly, but and it went through the court, and we did not prevail, and therefore the project was permitted to go forward. And then, as the city manager stated, Tavistock inherited those rights when they got the site.
So a previous commission denied the sales project. The court suspended that denial, or is that what happened?
Correct. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
I guess another question would be, is there any other way they could submit the plans for the two buildings without changing the PDD ordinance?
No.
No. No other way to build those two
Well,
buildings?
not at that height.
There's no other way to build those two buildings.
Three.
I presume they want to build it to that height for economic reasons. There must be some financial reasons. So, building a smaller building is not going to be profitable enough for them.
Sure. No, I'm saying there's no. I'm not disagreeing with the height of the new building. Like I said, I did see them, and it's. Like I said, I'm not ready to take a position yet, but I definitely would like to consider the two buildings. But I'm just saying, there's no other way to approve those two buildings unless we change them.
I don't know of any other way.
No.
Not at the height that they're proposing.
Not at their height. So.
And depending on the density, there may be an issue there as well. There are limitations. To answer the question that was posed just a little bit ago, and I apologize, my computer's charging. I can't bring it over here, so I'm doing this from memory. But there is language in the PDD section that talks about bulk, shadow, compatibility with neighboring uses, amenities for the public, so plaza space, roadway improvements, that type of thing. So based on that criteria, the city commission would be able to look at it and make an objective decision on whether or not they felt it met those criteria or not. But that would all have to be analyzed during the approval process.
Okay.
Anything from either Commissioner Glassman or Kinsey?
Yes. Hi, Mayor. Chris, I have no problem just moving forward and exploring it. And I did want to mention, a successful PDD recently was now called the Celine Project on the beach. That was an interesting exercise, walking that through the neighborhood and watching the reaction and how that changed. And basically, what I think I can summarize for that experience was that it's an open discussion to have whether or not taller, slender buildings are better than shorter, squatter, denser buildings in terms of view corridors in between buildings, in terms of being able to see more of the water, more of the sky. So that's a debate to have. That's an argument to have in certain circumstances whereby tall, slender might be better than short and squatter. So that was something that was evident in the process with that Celine, that PDD that was just mentioned by Chris Cooper in terms of moving forward with whatever might come here as well. So I'm open to that. I'm not necessarily afraid of height. Sometimes I think do prefer it if it's done in an architecturally beautiful way. And again, if it gives people the opportunity, especially when you're talking about coming over an important causeway like the 17th Street Bridge area, that's a gateway. And you are elevated, and it really is going to depend on what that site plan eventually looks like. But it might be better than just coming over the bridge and seeing this big block of a building, which might be just, more of a turnoff. So that's just my 2 cents about it, and my experience in seeing how people reacted when buildings changed with the PDD because height had to be given to those two buildings. It used to be known as this 3000 Alhambra project because it's on Alhambra Street on the beach near the Cafe Casablanca. But then the height was given, but what people realized was, especially people to the west of it and immediately surrounding it, was they were going to be able to have more of a view of as I said earlier, with the ocean, the intercoastal, the sky. So again, sometimes it's a trade-off, but I'm not afraid of it. And I like the fact that it has to be a 4-to-1 vote eventually. So that I think gives us a little bit more comfort level in terms of making sure that we agree that it is something good for the neighborhood and something good for the city. That's my 2 cents, Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner McKenzie, you have anything you want to add?
I'm good. Just want to see us move forward to see what comes out of it.
Do you have direction?
I do. I think what I've heard is that it's not a no, that, at this point, we'll kind of put two parallel paths together. And we'll be back to you all with more information after some additional community connections have been made.
Okay.
Area.
All right, very good. Anything further?
No, a change of location for now 5:30. So let me just repeat this. A change of location for 5:30, 7th floor legal conference room, as opposed to 8th floor.
5:30 or 5:45?
5:30.
And are we having the CRA meeting?
We are
now?
immediately. Yep.
Next, okay.
Do it right now.
Okay, great.
That's the last I have for the conference meeting.
Okay. Any further business of the commission regarding the conference meeting? There being none, that meeting is concluded. I'd like to convene the CRA meeting, CRA board. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Vice Chair Moritas.
Here.
Commissioner Glassman.
Unmute yourself.
Sorry, I had to mute myself. I'm here.
Okay, you're here. Okay.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Here.
Commissioner Sorensen.
Here.
Chair Trentals.
Here. Just a moment. Okay. So first item on the agenda is M1, motion to approve minutes. Do I have that right? Yeah, motion to approve minutes for October 5th, 2021 Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
Moved.
Been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. No corrections, Commissioner Glassman?
No, I'll save those for the evening minutes. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Get ready, David.
Okay.
Commissioner Sorensen.
David changed his mind.
Yes.
Vice Chair Moritas.
Yeah.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes, and just, Mayor, this was only a one-pager, so, that was kind of simple, just so you know. Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Chair Trentals.
Yes, and one is approved. M2, motion approving the fiscal year 2022 Central City Community Redevelopment Agency grant agreement with the Central City Alliance for $20,000. We have one person who signed up to speak. Abby Laughlin, is she online? Abby? Yes? Yeah,
I'm here to answer questions.
Oh, just answer questions. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Commissioner Glassman, you have any thoughts you want to share on this? This is in your.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine with this. I've attended this event. It's a great event. I'm very supportive of it.
Okay.
I moved the item.
It has been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sorensen.
Yes.
Vice Chair Moritas. Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Chair Trentals.
Yes, and M2 is approved. Resolutions. This is R1, a resolution accepting of the instruments of conveyance for 7 residential properties from the city of Fort Lauderdale for affordable housing, authorizing contract with companies for appraisal, title, survey, demolition, site cleanup, and related services, authorizing the issuance of requests for proposals for the development of the properties, and authorizing the executive director to execute any and all related instruments and delegating authority to the executive director to take certain actions. Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduce.
Any questions regarding this item? There being none, please call the roll.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Fort Lauderdale Community Redevelopment Agency accepting conveyance of 1 parcel located in the Central City Community Redevelopment Area and 6 parcels located in the Northwest Progresso Flagler Heights Community Redevelopment Area from the city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, authorizing the executive director to investigate, secure, and maintain the parcels, and to issue a request for proposals for development, authorizing the executive director to execute instruments, delegating authority to the executive director to take certain actions, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Chair Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis.
Yes, and R1 is approved. R2, resolution accepting of instruments of conveyance for 6 commercial properties from the city of Fort Lauderdale, authorizing contract with companies for appraisal, title, survey, demolition, site cleanup, and related services, authorizing the issuance of requests for proposals for the development of the properties, and authorizing the executive director to execute any and all related instruments, and delegating authority to the executive director to take certain actions. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduce.
Okay. Any questions, comments? A lot of authority you're being given, Mr. Woods. Only him?
Give him Chris.
Oh, okay. All right. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Fort Lauderdale Community Redevelopment Agency accepting conveyance of 6 parcels from the city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, authorizing the executive director to investigate, protect, and maintain the parcels, and to issue a request for proposals for development, authorizing the executive director to execute certain instruments, delegating authority to the executive director to take certain actions, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Chair Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis.
Yes, and R2 is approved. Any further business of the CRA?
It's not for the business of the CRA, but not to disappoint, we're going to move that meeting again now to the 8th floor conference room. So we'll reconvene on the 8th floor between 5, about 5.
Okay. All right. There's no further business of the CRA, so that meeting is now adjourned, and we will reconvene at 5:30 on the 8th floor for the shade meeting.